Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are today. So good to see so many of you with us. I'm Anastasia Andritsou, and I'm the British Council Country Director in Greece and Cyprus, and I will be your host today. In today's webinar, we are going to focus on the motivations for students who choose to undertake transnational education degrees, with a focus of UK transnational education degrees in France, Greece, and Spain. In the last couple of years, we have seen an impressive growth in transnational education, led by various factors, such as the need for institutions to diversify their offer, to provide them more international programs, to explore different business models, but also the need for students to get a more international perspective, cultural benefits, or to identify the most cost-effective option for them. So, in the UK universities enrolled nearly 35,000 students on transnational education programs in France, Greece, and Spain in 2022 and an academic year 2022-23. And it's a significant proportion of the overall UK TNE market in the European Union. Understanding what motivates students to choose a degree would be very, very important for institutions that want to adapt their offer in terms of programs, but also in order to set their marketing strategies. So hopefully today's webinar will offer very significant insights for all of you. Before we start, I would like to do a bit of housekeeping. So this session will last approximately 75 minutes. We will start with some presentations, and then there will be plenty of time for questions or comments. During the presentations, I would like to ask you to keep your microphone on mute and your camera switched off. You can post comments or questions during the presentation on the Q&A, and then you can ask your question at the end by raising your hand, or as I said, post your question on the Q&A. So without any further ado, I would like to start with our first speaker, and I would like to invite on our virtual stage my colleague, Erika Boak, our Europe Regional Director for Education. Erika, welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Anastasia, and it's really good to see everybody on the call this morning. Thank you for prioritising your time to join us. We conducted this research through Times Higher Education back in 2024, and we wanted to do a bit of a deep dive on TNE in the EU, with a focus particularly on the student decision-making journey, because we felt that that was a key evidence gap in the wider literature that would be really helpful, not only for the British Council to have those insights, but particularly for the UK higher education sector. We've done various dissemination and engagement events since the report was launched in January this year, but wanted to do this wider webinar to ensure that there was an opportunity for bigger reach with more engagement by UK universities. So the objectives, if we can move to the next slide, was basically a number of different priorities through this research. One was to understand students' perceptions of the reasons, motivations, and decision-making processes in choosing transnational education programmes in Greece, Spain, and France, as well as to understand students' interests in TNE instead of, for example, other higher education programmes that they could study at. We also wanted to understand how UK transnational education programmes were perceived compared to TNE provided by other countries. And we also wanted to support the efforts of UK higher education institutions and partners in developing TNE programmes as well as marketing strategies. In terms of the methodology for the research, it was conducted through both secondary and primary research methods, so a desk research covering a literature review, HESA data analysis, and a mapping of TNE provision in those 3 countries. There was also primary data collection with almost 1,400 students surveyed, and those were students studying both at UK and non-UK transnational education programmes. That was supplemented by qualitative interviews with a smaller subset of students in a number of countries. In terms of the next slide, we will now give a little bit of an overview of the higher education landscape in each of the 3 countries identified here. So there is a lot of change in Greek higher education, and that is kind of being driven by the need to support the Greek economy and the workforce and the role of higher education within that. Greece has above EU average percentage of degree holders, and there is strong domestic demand for higher education. There are 2 quite distinct sectors within Greek higher education. One is the kind of free public or state universities, and the other is private provision given or provided by private colleges in collaboration with international universities. There has been a kind of drive more recently to increase the international recruitment in Greece, so with a stronger desire to attract international students, both from the wider region and internationally. And they're looking to remove barriers to this. And this is very positive for UK universities, which are already active in Greece, or those who are looking to start up new partnerships there. In 2024, it's important to say that the Greek government introduced a new, very positive law on international branch campuses, and we are expecting UK universities very much to benefit directly from that. Moving on to the Spanish landscape. So the Spanish landscape is comparatively different, obviously, from Greece. It is what we would class as still quite a big market and also growing in terms of UK transnational education, but not of the size and necessarily potential of the Greek market. The wider context is that the Spanish government was keen to address high unemployment rates and a comparatively low degree holding population within the country. And there was a focus on looking at skills mismatches in the country and the role that vocational training could play to address this issue. So they've been trying to prioritise financial support for that skill shortages in the vocational training sector, with a view to more adults being able to have a degree as a result of that. Education is provided both in terms of public and private universities, with low costs incurred by students in public higher education, while private universities set their own fees. Internationalisation has become a top priority for the Spanish higher education policy. However, the research did identify that compulsory entry tests, which are quite difficult, can be a barrier for international students. In terms of the French landscape, we would kind of class France for UK transnational education as being a smaller market, but nonetheless a key one for historical reasons and also within the context of wider research collaboration. So even though perhaps there has been a kind of slower approach to implementing strategies on internationalisation, that's really picking up steam more recently. And there's been a desire to bolster higher education sector linked to the wider economy and workforce. And as in the case with other Western European countries, France's economy has been struggling due to an ageing population, rising costs and low immigration rates affected by migration policies. There has been support, or there is support by government funding for tuition fees for public university study, which are low and make it very accessible for EU and non-EU students, whilst private grandes écoles incur regular international fees and are very internationally orientated with mature partnerships in place already. France has experienced recent growth in international enrolments after introducing its ambitious international recruitment strategy, and they have an ambition to host 500,000 international students by 2027. So moving on to what some of the mapping showed from these 3 countries. In Greece, as I say, UK universities are drawing on strong historical partnerships and ties with the country. There are 35 UK transnational education partnerships with 22 private Greek institutions. University of East London has large numbers of enrolments in transnational education in Greece and still growing. There's a real clustering of transnational education around Thessaloniki and Athens, and in a recent bilateral meeting with the Greek Deputy Minister for Higher Education, he was very clear that there is a desire to extend out of those hubs and cover wider parts of the country. In terms of the kind of competition, as it were, for UK universities, France, the US and Cyprus are notable there for Greece. But I would say within Greece, the UK really does hold a kind of privileged status in terms of the partnerships with Greek institutions, whether that's state or private colleges. So the competition is less in Greece than it is in other countries. So moving on to Spain. What we see from the research is that the UK has less of a foothold in Spain compared to other awarding countries for transnational education. There are 16 UK TNE partnerships with 22 institutions, mainly clustered around Barcelona, Madrid and Malaga, compared to 49 non-UK TNE partnerships with 18 Spanish institutions. Some of the key competitor TNE countries are France and the US in similar parts of the country, and focusing on business and management, law and engineering. Looking now towards France, we have there, France is a smaller market, but as I said, nonetheless important for UK universities, and there are strong research partnerships in place between UK and French universities. There are 29 UK transnational education partnerships with 34 French institutions. And that is within the context of a really high number of non-UK TNE partnerships, where Canada, the US and Brazil have a really high number, so 452 in total, with 45 French institutions, mainly in the form of double degrees. Both or all types of TNE are focused more on postgraduate level rather than undergraduate. So in terms of what some of the HESA data is showing on transnational education, if we can move to the next slide. Greece is a big market and still growing very fast. We kind of are very pleased to see each year when the HESA data comes out that Greece is still growing at a very impressive rate, and that's being driven by some key providers there in the country. But UK transnational education has grown by 49% over the last 5 years. And the majority of that has been coming through undergraduate students, with almost 20,000 alone in 2022, 2023. Collaborative provision is the primary mode of delivery, comprising 96% of UK transnational education, and that would cover joint dual degrees, franchise and validation programmes. What we have seen in Greece, as with other EU countries, is a decline in inbound mobility to the UK. And it is possible that transnational education in Greece is mopping up some of the demand for UK higher education, where it's perceived that the cost of travelling to the UK and paying international fees are a disincentive compared to having affordable, really high quality UK higher education in their own country. Moving on to Spain, what we've seen again is really good levels of growth in Spain for UK transnational education, growing by 30% over the last 5 years. 82% again at undergraduate level, which has been steadily increasing. Again, the majority of this is through collaborative provision, with about a quarter of that coming from distance learning. And again, we've seen a decline in inbound mobility from Spain due to the loss of home fee status and student support. And then moving on to France, it has experienced, I would say, more of a slowdown compared to other countries that we've looked at, like Greece and Spain. And interestingly here, the numbers are more in favour of postgraduate students than undergraduate students. So UK TNE has grown by 23% over the last 5 years. A significant proportion of that is delivered through distance learning. And again, we see trends from France with declining student mobility coming to the UK. So in summary, some of the key takeaways from our kind of initial desk research of this report was just the interesting split between Greece and Spain being more driven by undergraduate markets, while France is more postgraduate. And UK TNE distance learning is more common in France, while collaborative provision is more common in Greece and Spain. What we do see is that there's been a benefit for UK universities with more strategic focus on international student recruitment, particularly in Greece and in France, and that will open up more market opportunities for UK universities looking to provide TNE in country. But we know that UK TNE is happening in a competitive environment, and that some of those existing partnerships that other countries have with those EU universities are real and existing, and may make it more challenging for the UK to find a kind of niche role within that. Although we do recognise that in countries like Greece, the UK has a really strong hold and growing still further. So I will hand over to my colleague Nilgün, who will take us through the bulk of the primary research. Thank you.
Thank you, Erika, for this very useful overview of UK TNE in the 3 European countries. And now we are moving to the student motivations with the support of our colleague Nilgün, who is our regional insight and engagement lead at Europe Hub. Nilgün, over to you.
Thank you, Anastasia. So why are students choosing TNE? Let's have a look at what students' responses tell us about motivations for TNE in general, not necessarily UK. All TNE offers regardless of awarding country within the EU. And then we will also look at UK TNE specific reasons as well. Okay, when we look at what motivates students to choose TNE, the picture is very clear, and it groups clusters into 3 or 4 broad groups. Firstly, flexibility, the ability to fit their studies around their work, family, or other commitments is among top 3 most important factors across the whole sample we surveyed and interviewed. Secondly, career opportunities. Students are thinking about advancing their careers, both in their home and also internationally. And we see the results coming strongly in that. On the second cluster, you see on the bar chart. And they see TNE as a valuable pathway to do so. And finally, breadth of learning experience. A wider choice of courses, internationally networking, and opportunity to engage with foreign professors and international other students feature strongly as well. Added to all these, students we see also recognize the value of foreign degrees and the affordability that TNE offers compared to full mobility. If we look at the country nuances a little bit, in France, affordability and perceived enhanced value of international degrees stand out. When we look at Spain, the variety of courses is a key attraction. And finally, for Greece, we find out that flexibility and opportunities to build international professional networks for their future careers are especially important. And the reasons vary between home-based and international students too. You see on the right-hand side bottom box, home-based TNE students place high value on staying close to family, whereas those studying abroad, so non-EU students, are very conscious of living costs and then often choose a host country where affordability is better than the awarding country itself. When when we look at the key motivations for choosing a UK TNE program, we see that flexibility and career values, career opportunity values were again front and center. We also saw some unique drivers in each market. For example, variety of courses mattered for more in France, employability and networking opportunities in Greece, and finally, social and cultural experience range in Spain came out stronger compared to the other surveyed countries. To sum up, UK TNE is chosen because of strong perceived career value, course variety, and international networks we find. Now, we will have a closer look into drivers and barriers in student decision-making journey. And to do so, I would like us to discuss it across 3 stages, being awareness, consideration, and conversion. Let's kick off with awareness. Looking across the 3 countries, we see some distinct patterns in how students first hear about TNE options. In Greece, personal networks and offline recommendations play a stronger role. Many students hear about TNE from their friends, from alumni, alongside other searches. Greece also shows slightly higher awareness from social media channels, although this is still secondary to other sources. In Spain, a wider mix. Online search remains key, but there is also a stronger influence from school-based advisors and recommendations from tutors and teachers. And finally, in France, online search engines and institutional websites dominate. There is still relatively low awareness of TNE through offline channels. This points to, if you like, an opportunity to build word of mouth and a trusted partnerships development needed. In overall, the message comes out clear for us. Online visibility matters, but offline trust and personal networks remain influential, especially in markets where TNE is well established, like this 3. Sources of awareness. Search online is critical, especially for postgraduate students. Those are shown in dark blue part of the bars. The postgrad students tend to do more independent research, and that's what we understand is the reason why they scored higher with that. Study abroad platforms and institutional websites are key digital sources. This is where students expect to find reliable information. And we will talk about the gaps in information students are able to reach as well. For undergraduates, offline sources, so the light blue parts of the bar, especially recommendations from family, friends, and school advisors are particularly important. These trusted voices strongly influence early awareness in them. We find ultimately we see that awareness building must combine online visibility with trusted personal networks. Let me put it that way. What helps the conversion? We understand that social media doesn't play a massive role in that. Nevertheless, it is relevant. The most influential platforms are coming out as Facebook, followed by Instagram and YouTube. Postgraduate students are more likely to use LinkedIn as part of their research, but in overall, real conversion drivers are those that are personal. Direct contact with institutions through mail, calls, or in person plays a decisive role. We understand that this is because students value the chance to ask questions, clarify ambiguities or uncertainties, and get personal reassurance before committing. But overall, social media is more effective when combined with personal recommendations and direct contact with the institution. So to sum up on the sources of consideration and conversion, when students are considering their options, personal recommendations from family, friends, and counselors we found are to be the key influencers. At the point of conversion, direct interaction with institutions becomes the main driver. The interviews, the qualitative results show us that quick, personalized responses and the opportunity for real conversation helps students feel informed and supported. Moving on to, okay, so information gaps, as I mentioned earlier. Despite all these influential metrics, we also found that there are some persistent gaps in their journeys as well, in their decision-making journeys, especially in finding clear information on fees, cost of living, and detailed course content. These gaps matter. Students tell us they need these to make informed decisions. And let me stop here and hand over to Erika to take us through overarching recommendations coming out of the study. Over to you, Erika.
Thank you, Nilgün. So the recommendations really flowed directly from some of the findings that Nilgün has shared just now, and that is related to leveraging online channels, so existing search engines, institutional websites, as well as study abroad platforms. So some of the information on transnational education, the research found what was accessible, and other parts were much more challenging to find for prospective students. So we need to make that a kind of as smooth a journey as possible right from the beginning. Using social media, testimonials, and insight from the student experience of graduates would also be a strategic approach. Particularly for undergraduate markets, we're recommending that universities establish partnerships with high schools as well as colleges, and not to underestimate the value of word-of-mouth marketing. The research did find actually the importance of hearing about and discussing opportunities with even family members who themselves had benefited from transnational education in helping them to make decisions about enrolling on the course. In terms of specifically bringing out the UK's unique strengths in relation to UK transnational education compared to those of non-UK transnational education, we would recommend that the variety of modules offered is really brought out really clearly. That was a distinct selling point that was clear and was really appreciated by both domestic students and international students studying UK TNE. The advantages of smaller class sizes, as well as the flexibility that UK transnational education programmes offer, enabling people to work at the same time and or continue to do caring activities if they had those. The benefits of the international networking opportunities that UK transnational education affords to students should really be brought out, as well as the opportunities to have some level of immersion into UK culture. And from a kind of employability perspective, how credentials gained on transnational education programmes can be used in students' home countries as well as internationally. More widely, we had a fairly broad recommendation on given the wider context of the continued growth of UK transnational education students, within the context of constraints with inbound mobility to the UK, there is a need to really think across the piece at what does this mean for wider join up on how we promote UK transnational education, across organisations, including from the British Council. How can we and others, be supportive of UK universities getting out clear messaging on some of the real benefits of UK TNE. We think about the focus on Study UK for inbound mobility and the amount of thought that goes into that campaign. And there's nothing equivalent at all on the UK TNE space. But we're just putting it out there that actually down the line, it would be useful to think about that from a strategic perspective. So that brings us to the end of the study and to the recommendations, and I'll now hand back to Anastasia.
Thank you, Erika. Thank you, Nilgün, for this insightful presentation. So, audience, it's your turn now to take part and ask questions. As I said, you can raise your hand and ask a question, or use the Q&A function on your screen, whatever it's easier or more convenient for you. And along with Erika and Nilgün, we have with us colleagues from the countries, experts that took part in the research. So your question may be around these areas as well. So do we have any question? Okay. Beata, please, you may want to switch on your camera, your microphone, and say which institution you represent. You are on mute.
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Beata Frolic, and I am representing Marbella International University Center. First of all, thank you for insightful presentation. And I have a very specific question. In your research, have you identified the most popular study abroad websites for Spain, or the most popular portals for Spain? Because you're referring that 16% of students make their decisions based on those portals. So have you identified the most popular ones? Thank you.
Agnieszka, I could ask you to respond, or maybe Carolina.
You want me to, Agnieszka? Beata, nice to talk to you. I'm sorry, I don't know. I didn't do the research. It was done by a team in the UK and an international company. What I can tell you is that there is the registration of all UK or foreign qualifications by the ministry. Most students know about it, and most students look into that, but they don't. I mean, it's not up to date, and that's the problem. So it is very important that you appear if you've got a partnership with a UK university, because the majority of the students check that website. Once they found about it, they check whether you're there.
Well, I can answer this question. No, we did not find this information on the most popular websites. Obviously, it was a big survey. We had to draw limits to what we could find out. Otherwise, it would be very long. So we didn't go to such a level of detail.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beata, for your question. There is another question on the chat about how much do UK universities charge TNE students. I guess the actual level of fees depends on country context. But since we have Katerina from Greece and Carolina from Spain, maybe, Katerina, we could start with you and give an indicative level of cost for a TNE degree without being specific about the university, but just a range of fees of the programs offered. And then I will invite Carolina to answer the same for Spain.
Okay, thanks, Anastasia. I had no intention to give names. The anecdotal evidence from the market is that the local partners charge something between 6,000 euros to 10,000 euros, depending if the program is an undergraduate or postgraduate level. So compared to the UK fees as they are charged in the mother institutions, there is a big difference. And probably this is the main reason that students prefer to pursue their UK studies in Greece via the local provision.
Thank you, Katerina. And I would invite Carolina to give a quick estimate for Spain. And I don't know if my regional colleagues have any average cost that they could share across Europe. So Carolina and then Erika.
Yeah, it depends. If we're talking about an undergraduate franchise, it obviously depends on the course, the program, the offer, the local center. But I would say, yes, the range is between 8,000 and maximum 12,000 euros per year. There are also joint partnerships between Spanish and British universities. Normally, it's a Spanish private university, and the fee is normally similar to what a course by the Spanish university would be. So I won't name any university, but if the range of a postgraduate program is about 16,000, the British degree in collaboration with the Spanish university would very much be around 16,000. And there is a very unique and very expensive university that also has some partnerships for joint degrees. As that university is also very expensive in Spain, obviously the fees for a joint degree with the UK is also very expensive. So very much depends on who is offering the degree and who is the partner in the UK. Both things have affect the price.
Erika, you may have a wider comment on this.
Yeah, so I mean, this came up in a recent event that the British Council hosted in Poland, also on transnational education, and we know that, for example, Coventry University has a campus in Wrocław in Poland. It wasn't covered in this research, but will be covered in separate research, and they charge fees of £5,000 a year, which it isn't very much, but in a Polish context, it is still fairly expensive, given that state higher education is free. So in the main, so what we do see in UK TNE in the EU is that there is a real need to consider the price points really early in some of those discussions in light of the wider economy and the purchasing power of parents and students. And we're seeing that actually some Eastern European countries are struggling to find that sweet spot of covering costs from the UK end and making it sustainable, but also being affordable and accessible for students in Eastern European countries. That is a different context to these countries that we were looking at in the study today.
Thank you, Erika. I hope this gives our participants a good idea about the level of fees and how these are set. The next question, it has to do with the research itself, so maybe for Agnieszka. And we see Gordon is asking the question, they see in a number of markets the use of AI tools by students in order to support them in selecting, choosing the right course. Is there a reason for not including this in the market, or was this so limited that it wasn't there? A quick comment from you, Agnieszka?
Yes, indeed, the AI has not been included as a response option. We need to remember that the data was collected last year. I think that last year the use of AI tools hasn't been as popular as it is now. It's just growing so quickly. So that's I think that's the main reason, right? But there was another option added, and respondents could add other things, and AI has not surfaced as something important at that time. That's why we don't see it in the top list of communication channels, basically.
And since we have you now with us, the next question is also, I think, for you. And again, one reason for choosing to study in the country may be the language, although most of the TNE programs I'm aware of are delivered in the English language, although some are delivered in the local language. Do we see this as a reason for choosing a TNE degree in country X, the delivery, the language of delivery? Is it a factor?
We didn't really explore the language of delivery in a big detail. It wasn't any key motivating factor, and we know that a lot of our respondents were studying in local language. Some were studying in English. But we do not have any more detailed information on the language. I would have to check. It wasn't in the top motivators. Nothing about the language, right? But we had the motivator. We had cultural things, right? Things related to cultural and social environment of the awarding country. Well, language is part of that, but language singled out, we did not have it in the survey.
Thank you, Agnieszka. Nilgün, any any additional comments on this question?
Yes, to follow up, Agnieszka, yeah, English didn't come out as one of the main motivators, but as part of the career development motivators. You will see on the, I hope you can see my screen. In the answers to the question about employability opportunities, English came as part of the career advancement reasons. Reputation for global recognition and English language advantage was listed under the reasons why a UK TNE program would be chosen.
Very useful information. And Erika, anything to add to this?
I mean, the points around medium of instruction are really relevant and pertinent in a number of different European countries, given some of the policies in place. But we do know from wider research that English medium of instruction is in itself a draw, one of the selling features of UK TNE. And in some countries, there can also be a perception that just by virtue of delivering a program in English, it's perceived to be of higher quality. So there's more I think we can do to leverage some of the strengths of English media of instruction that UK universities may have, but also mindful of the fact that that can then also serve to reduce the potential overall market and opportunities to expand within that.
And if I can add to what my colleague Nilgün has said about the English language, it has surfaced in the qualitative part. Which was done after the survey, to understand a bit better and in depth the motivators. But we haven't quantified that English language bit.
Thank you both. I cannot see any other question on the Q&A or raise hands. Do people have any other questions that they would like to ask? Or while we are waiting for questions, we could use the opportunity, Erika, to inform our audience about upcoming reports or work that we do in this area and how we can support the sector.
Yeah, thank you. So we are keen for our research to be as impactful as possible and to kind of address the key needs that you have in potentially starting new partnerships or expanding existing partnerships in the EU. So we have more research coming out focusing on EU case studies of UK TNE. It's going to look at across a range of different models of TNE in big and growing markets. So it will cover Greece, Cyprus, Germany, Ireland, but other markets beyond that. And we're going to try and lift the bonnet a little bit on the operational details of those partnerships, how they have been designed, the governance structures, and also look a little bit at some partnerships which have not been sustained, and perhaps identify some of the key reasons for that, so that we're not just always looking at success, but we're learning some of the lessons also from partnerships that have not gone forward or been sustained. We also have national level studies coming out soon on from both Spain and Poland, which I think will be an important complement to this research today, and the other case studies coming out imminently. And the point around AI is a really good one, and we are really keen to hear from you if there are key areas that you feel are barriers to you getting perhaps the approvals you need from the hierarchy within your universities to embark on new partnerships, and that can help you with market access. Please do share them with us so that we can factor that into future research prioritization.
Thank you, Erika. And we will be sharing more details at the end of this webinar about how people can give feedback and contribute to this work. Meanwhile, we had a question from Aline on, as part of the research, if we found any differences between the profile and motivation of online students versus other TNE students. Agnieszka or June?
Well, yes, we did look at that. And you can find the insights in the full report. We didn't go to such a level of detail looking at subsets of our data during this presentation, but we do have insights on the views of online students versus students in different modes of delivery on campus, etc., etc. And there are some differences.
Thank you, Agnieszka. And we posted again on this Q&A the link where you can find the full report. Are there any other questions? Raise your hand and ask your question. As Agnieszka said, obviously this presentation, we summarize some key findings, but the actual report can give you a far more detailed presentation of all these areas with useful tables and statistics. Nilgün, you want to add something to this? No, it's okay. Good. Already you can see the link to the report, but we will be sharing with all participants the recording as well as the slides that we used for today's presentation. This will happen later in this week. You will be all receiving an online survey about this webinar and whether if it was useful, any comments that you might have, but also as part of this survey, we would like to give us some feedback about our work and efforts in this area, whether you need from us a different type of research and information in different areas, whether you would see potential for a more joint-up approach, evidence that you would like to see for UK TNE in Europe, and much more. So we would be grateful if you could spend a bit of time to fill in the survey, because this will have it will be very, very useful to inform our future work in this area. Sorry, we have 2 quick comments. We have a question from Joe. Norway, has anyone ever approached Norway as a TNE area? Although not EU, it's Europe. Any research ever undertaken on this country? Erika or Nilgün?
So Norway is interesting just because of historically the flow of inbound students from Norway. We know that a number of Russell groups are very orientated in their partnerships on Norway. We will be there will be an event at EAIE happening in Sweden in the second week of September. And there will be, in particular, a higher education event hosted by the Norwegian government for UK universities. So there's definitely appetite from the Norwegian higher education sector to engage with UK universities. It's a kind of not a formal part of my brief, so we're not necessarily leaning in on Norway, but we can signpost you if you want to kind of find out more and lean in more to Norway.
Thank you, Erika. And for any areas that we didn't have the opportunity to cover in this webinar, and if you'd like to have additional questions, my colleague Lizzie shared her email on the Q&A, so please do not hesitate to contact Lizzie about any follow-up to this, and we will try to respond to you as soon as possible. And as I said, the focus is in these three countries today, Greece, Spain and France, but through the work that we do across Europe, we will be very happy to provide any insights for other countries not covered in this specific report. I do not see any other questions or comments on the chat, colleagues. Thank you very much to our presenters today and to all my colleagues for their support in this webinar. Thank you so much, our audience, for this. We hope that you found this useful. Once again, recording and slides will follow. You have the contact details of Lizzie. You have on the slides the contact details from Erika and Nilgün. Please take a bit of time to fill in the online survey that will follow. This will help us to understand how we can support you better. Thank you so much for your time, and looking forward to see you in one of our next webinars for higher education and TNE in Europe and the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.